Be honest with me for a moment. When you rise from your favorite chair, do you need a little rock forward first? When you step off a curb, do you feel that split second of doubt, like your knee might not fully cooperate? When you get out of bed, out of the car, or up from the toilet, do you reach for something solid before you trust your own legs? If that sounds familiar, stay with me, because what most people are told about weak knees after 75 is incomplete, and sometimes flat out discouraging. A lot of older adults hear the same message over and over. Your knees are worn out. It's just age. Be careful. Slow down. Maybe surgery is the only real answer. Now listen carefully. I'm not saying knee arthritis isn't real. I'm not saying pain should be ignored. And I'm definitely not saying every knee problem can be solved with one movement. But I am telling you this as Dr. Alex Mitchell. In a huge number of adults over 75, what feels like a failing knee is actually a failing support system. The muscles that should help you stand, steady yourself, and control each step have gotten quieter, slower, and weaker. And when that happens, the knee ends up taking the blame for a job it was never meant to do alone. That's the first big surprise. The knee is not a powerful engine. It's more like a hinge caught between two major force centers, the hips above and the lower legs below. If the muscles in your thighs and hips stop doing their share, the knee pays the price. That's why some people say, "My X-ray doesn't even look that bad, so why do my knees feel so unreliable?" The answer is often not just wear and tear. It's weakness, poor coordination, and lost confidence in the movement itself. And that last part matters more than people realize. Confidence is physical. If your brain no longer trusts your legs, it changes how you move. You stiffen up. You take shorter steps. You avoid bending. You lower yourself into chairs like you're landing an airplane with one working wheel. Then those safer-looking habits slowly make your legs even weaker. So the very thing you do to protect your knees ends up making them less capable. That is one of the cruelest loops in aging, and it's also one of the most reversible. By the end of this, I'm going to give you the #1 daily exercise I recommend first for many adults over 75 who want to stand up more easily, walk with more control, and stop feeling like every transition is a minor event. It doesn't require a gym. It doesn't require a floor routine. It doesn't ask you to twist, kneel, or force your knees through a deep bend. But before I show it to you, you need to understand why the obvious solutions often fail, because that's exactly what keeps so many people stuck. The first mistake is thinking more walking automatically fixes weak knees. Walking is wonderful. I want you walking if you safely can. But walking is not the same thing as rebuilding the strength needed to rise from a chair. A lot of people assume, I'm on my feet every day, so why are my knees still weak? Because being active and being strong are not identical. You can shuffle around the house 10 times a day and still lack the specific strength and control required to stand smoothly, climb stairs, or lower yourself without that hard thump at the end. The second mistake is stretching when the real problem is force production. Again, stretching has value. Tight muscles can absolutely affect comfort and movement. But if your legs can't generate enough power to lift your body weight out of a chair, no amount of calf stretching or hamstring stretching is going to solve that by itself. Flexibility helps a joint move through a range. Strength is what allows you to own that range. And when it comes to standing up, owning the movement is everything. The third mistake is choosing exercises that are too disconnected from daily life. Leg circles in bed, ankle pumps, random kicks while sitting, even some machine exercises at the gym can have a place. But if the movement never teaches your body how to do the actual task you're struggling with, progress is often slow, frustrating, or incomplete. Your body learns best when the training looks like the life you're trying to get back. That's why the best exercise for weak knees after 75 is usually not the fanciest one. It's the one that rebuilds the exact pattern you need every single day. Getting up, sitting down. Loading the legs, controlling the descent, standing tall, transferring weight, trusting the movement again. And when you train that pattern the right way, something powerful happens. You're not just exercising, you're rehearsing independence. Now here's the part I want you to really hear. If standing up has become harder, the issue is not just strength, it's timing. To rise from a chair well, your brain has to organize a sequence in the right order. Lean forward. Bring your center of mass over your feet, push through the floor, activate the thighs, fire the glutes, stabilize the trunk, straighten the hips, straighten the knees. That entire chain has to happen smoothly. After 75, that chain often gets rusty. Not broken, rusty. Which is why random movement won't always fix it, but specific movement often will. And that brings us to the daily exercise I want you to know about. The number one movement for many older adults with weak knees is the elevated sit to stand. Not a deep squat, not a lunge, not getting down on the floor. The elevated sit to stand. In plain English, it means practicing standing up from a chair that has been set to the right height for your body, then sitting back down slowly with control. Now, before you say, I already stand up from chairs all day, stay with me, because doing something casually and training it intentionally are two very different things. Most people don't stand up in a way that strengthens them. They push hard with their hands, twist, rush, rock, or drop back down with almost no control. That gets the job done in the moment, but it doesn't rebuild capacity. The elevated sit to stand does, because it turns an everyday task into a targeted, repeatable strength drill. Why is it number one? Because it checks nearly every box that matters. It strengthens the quadriceps on the front of the thighs, which are essential for knee control. It wakes up the glutes, which unload the knees and make walking steadier. It trains the exact motion people struggle with most. It teaches balance during a real-life transition. And just as importantly, it restores trust. When someone who has been nervous about standing starts doing this safely every day, the body gets stronger, yes, but the brain also stops sounding the alarm every time they move. In my experience, that trust piece changes everything. I've seen adults who are less limited by pain than by fear. They feared getting stuck halfway up. They feared that sudden buckle. They feared needing help in front of family. They feared falling in the bathroom with nobody nearby. When the movement becomes more predictable, that fear softens. And when fear softens, movement improves. Then movement improvement builds more confidence. That's the kind of loop we want. So let me show you how to do this correctly, because the setup is what makes it gentle enough for weak knees and effective enough to matter. Start with a sturdy chair that will not slide. If possible, place it against a wall. Choose a chair with a firm seat, not a soft couch cushion that swallows you. If standing from a normal chair feels too hard right now, raise the seat height. You can do that by placing 1 or 2 firm cushions on the seat, or by using a slightly taller chair. This is not cheating. This is smart progression, and it is one of the biggest reasons people succeed. Sit near the front half of the chair, not all the way buried in the back. Place your feet about hip-width apart. Bring them back enough so they are under you, not way out in front. Keep them flat on the floor. Your toes can point mostly forward or slightly outward if that feels more natural. Now lean your chest forward as if your nose is coming over your toes. That forward lean is not bad form. It is the bridge that lets your body move over your feet so your legs can actually help. From there, press through the middle of your feet and your heels. Tighten through your thighs and your buttocks, and stand up. At the top, come fully upright. Don't stop halfway. Let your hips straighten. Let your chest rise. Then pause for just a moment. That little pause matters because it teaches your body what a stable standing position feels like. After that, send your hips back and lower yourself down slowly. Not a drop, not a collapse. A slow, controlled descent until you gently touch the chair and sit. That lowering phase is gold. A lot of people focus on getting up, but sitting down with control is often where the real rebuilding happens. When you lower slowly, the muscles on the front of the thighs are working hard to control the bend at the knee. That is exactly what helps with stairs, curbs, and the moment you lower into a chair without feeling like gravity just won the argument. Now, if you need your hands at first, use them. You can place your hands on the armrests, on the sides of the chair, or even lightly on your thighs. I would rather see you do a supported version well than an unsupported version badly. Over time, the goal is to use less help, not because pride matters, but because reducing hand support shifts more of the work back into the legs where it belongs. But the sequence matters. First we make it safe, then we make it stronger. Here is the dosage I like for many beginners. Start with 5 repetitions once a day, just 5. If that feels manageable and your knees do not flare up later the same day or the next morning, stay there for several days, then go to 2 sets of 5. Eventually, you can work toward 8 to 10 repetitions per set. For many adults over 75, 1 or 2 good sets done consistently will beat a long, exhausting workout done once in a while. Your body responds to repetition and regularity, not punishment. And that brings me to a mistake that sabotages progress. People often do too much on day 1 because they feel motivated. Then they pay for it for 2 days and decide the exercise is not for them. That is not failure. That is bad dosing. The right amount leaves you feeling worked, not wrecked. You want effort. You do not want a flare that makes you afraid to move tomorrow. Think of it like watering a plant. Enough helps it grow. Too much all at once can drown it. So what should you feel? You should feel your thighs working. You may feel your hips and buttocks working too. You may notice mild pressure around the knees, especially when lowering down. That can be normal. Sharp pain is different. A sudden stab, a catching sensation, or pain that rapidly escalates is a signal to stop and reassess. Also pay attention to what happens later. If your knees are a little tired afterward but settle well, that's one thing. If they swell, throb, or are significantly worse into the next day, the seat may be too low, the volume too high, or the tempo too fast. And yes, tempo matters. Faster is not better here. In fact, faster is usually worse. After 75, the body tends to respond beautifully to calm, deliberate strength work. Try a rhythm like this. Lean and stand with intention. Pause at the top, then lower for a slow count of 3. That count on the way down can transform the exercise. It increases muscle control, improves awareness, and often reduces that panicked, jerky feeling many people have when they think their knees can't be trusted. There's another subtle technique that makes a big difference. As you stand, don't think only about the knees straightening. Think about pushing the floor away and squeezing your glutes when you get tall. That cue helps spread the work through the whole leg instead of dumping it into the front of the knee. One of the reasons this movement is so effective is that it teaches teamwork. The hips, thighs, trunk, and lower legs all contribute. And when the work is shared, the knee stops feeling like the weakest link in the chain. If you're getting value from this so far, I hope you'll stay with me all the way to the end, because in a minute, I'm going to give you the 2 easiest modifications for people who say, Dr. Mitchell, I can't do even one. I'm also going to tell you how to know when it's time to progress, because doing the right exercise at the wrong difficulty can slow you down almost as much as doing the wrong exercise altogether. First, let's talk about what not to do. Do not use a low, sagging recliner as your practice station. That's setting yourself up for a battle you don't need. Do not let your knees cave inward as you stand. If they drift inward slightly, slow down and think about gently pressing them apart so they stay lined up over your feet. Do not jerk yourself up with momentum. If you have to swing wildly to get going, the setup is probably still too hard. And do not plop down. That hard landing is not just noisy. It tells you the muscles are not controlling the last half of the movement yet. Now for the modifications. If you cannot stand up without a major struggle, raise the seat higher. I know I said it already, but it's worth repeating because it changes everything. Even an extra 2 or 3 inches can turn an impossible movement into a trainable one. If that's still too hard, use what I call the assisted chair rise. Set up the same way, lean forward the same way, but press with your hands enough to help yourself through the sticking point. Then try to lower with as much leg control as you can. That way, even if the standing part is partly assisted, you are still training the muscles on the way down. Here's the second modification. If a full stand is too much, practice the first half only. Sit tall, lean forward, load the feet, and lift your body just an inch or 2 off the chair, then sit back down. That tiny liftoff can be a powerful starting point. It teaches the pattern. It teaches forward transfer. It teaches the legs to accept load. And for someone who has lost confidence, that first little hover off the seat is often the moment they realize, maybe I'm not as helpless as I thought. That realization matters. In rehab, small wins are not small. They are leverage. The first time you need less hand support, that's leverage. The first time you stand up without rocking 3 times first, that's leverage. The first time you lower onto the toilet without bracing in fear, that's leverage. Progress in later life is often less dramatic than people expect, but far more meaningful. It shows up in dignity, in ease, in not having to think so hard about basic movement. Now let me tell you why I like this exercise even more than many traditional knee drills. It gives immediate feedback. Either you can rise more smoothly or you can't. Either the chair height is appropriate or it isn't. Either your control on the way down is improving or it isn't. That kind of clarity is useful, especially for mature adults who are tired of vague advice like just strengthen your legs. This tells you exactly what stronger legs look like in real life. And that's also why this exercise builds authority with older viewers when explained by a doctor, because it respects the truth of daily living. You don't care about isolated muscle theory alone. You care about getting off the couch, out of the car, off the toilet, out of a restaurant booth without that awkward push and grimace. The elevated sit to stand is honest. It doesn't pretend strength exists separate from function. It says, let's train the exact thing that gives you independence back. So when should you progress? Here's a simple rule. If you can perform your current version with good form, mild effort, and no significant increase in symptoms later that day or the next morning, you may be ready to make it slightly harder. Not dramatically harder, slightly. Lower the seat height a little. Use your hands a little less. Add 1 or 2 repetitions. Or slow the lowering phase even more. Those are all smart progressions. What you do not need is a heroic jump from easy to hard. The body after 75 usually rewards patience far more than ambition. A lot of people ask me, how soon will I notice a difference? The honest answer is that it varies. But many people notice something encouraging within the first 2 weeks, not necessarily a miracle, but a shift. Maybe they feel less shaky getting up in the morning. Maybe standing from the dinner table feels less like a project. Maybe they still use the handrail on stairs, but not with the same desperation. Those early changes matter because they prove the system can still adapt. The body is listening. By 4 to 6 weeks of consistent practice, many adults start noticing that they don't have to psych themselves up every time they stand. The movement becomes more automatic. That's a huge milestone. It means the brain is trusting the pattern again. By 8 to 12 weeks, it's common to see better endurance in the legs, better control lowering into a chair, and more confidence walking longer distances or getting in and out of the car. Again, I'm not promising perfection. I am promising that the right movement, practiced regularly, can change the way your day feels. But there's one more reason this exercise works so well, and it's easy to miss. It gives you a daily opportunity to practice success. That sounds simple, but it's powerful. Every time you do a good repetition, your nervous system gets evidence that the movement is possible. That evidence reduces guarding. Reduced guarding improves coordination. Better coordination reduces strain. Less strain makes the exercise feel safer, and that makes you more likely to keep doing it. Success feeds success. Now, let me be clear about who should pause and get medical guidance first. If you've had a recent knee replacement, a recent fall, a new injury, unexplained swelling, locking, severe instability, or chest symptoms with exertion, talk with your physician or physical therapist before starting. If you have advanced arthritis, you may still be able to do this, but the setup may need to be individualized. Safety is never the enemy of progress. It is the foundation of progress. For everyone else, this is one of the cleanest ways to begin rebuilding what aging often takes quietly, the ability to rise on demand. And that ability reaches into every corner of life. Standing up is not just standing up. It's going to the bathroom safely. It's answering the door. It's getting off a low chair at your grandchild's recital. It's stepping out of the passenger seat without needing someone to pull you. It's moving through your home with less hesitation. That is why I care so much about this one exercise. It looks modest, but the payoff is deeply practical. If I had a patient in front of me who said, "Dr. Alex Mitchell, my knees feel weak and I'm starting to lose trust in them," I would not start by trying to impress them with complexity. I would start by restoring the movement that life asks of them over and over. I would make it doable. I would make it repeatable. I would make it safe enough that they could actually stick with it. Because the best exercise is not the one that sounds advanced. It's the one that gets done consistently and leads to the next layer of progress. And once this begins to feel easier, that's when walking improves. That's when stairs improve. That's when balance often improves too. Because balance is not just standing still without wobbling. Balance is being able to control your body when it shifts, rises, lowers, and transitions. The elevated sit to stand trains all of that in one simple daily practice. So here's the takeaway I want you to remember. If your knees feel weak after 75, don't immediately assume your future has to get smaller. Don't assume every hard stand from a chair is proof that the joint is finished. In many cases, what you're feeling is a body that needs retraining more than retirement. The strength is not always gone. Sometimes it's simply underused, underloaded, and underconfident, and that can change. Tomorrow, I want you to find one sturdy chair. I want you to raise the seat if needed. I want you to sit near the front, place your feet under you, lean forward, and practice 5 careful elevated sit-to-stands. Stand tall, lower slowly. That's it. 5 good ones. Then do the same the next day, and the next. Give the movement enough consistency to teach your legs what you expect from them again. If this message gave you hope, hold on to that hope, but pair it with action. That's where change begins. And if you know someone who has started avoiding stairs, avoiding walks, or avoiding getting up without help because their knees feel unreliable, share this with them. Sometimes people don't need a miracle. They need one clear place to start. I'm Dr. Alex Mitchell, and I want you to remember this. Confidence in your knees is not built by wishing they were younger. It's built by giving them support, strength, and practice in the movements that matter most. Start small, stay steady, let the wins stack up, and you may be surprised by how much easier standing, walking, and moving can feel when your body is finally trained for the life you actually live.